Hey everyone, we're live here today with Bernardo from Impact Market. I'm Andy from Figment, and we're going to talk a bit about what is Impact Market, sort of how did they get started, what's the mission, the experience has been building on CELO, and maybe a little bit about what is coming up in the future. So the audience today is people who are interested in either things like UBI or blockchain development with CELO. We'll talk about both of those things today. So Bernardo, can you introduce yourself and describe briefly what is Impact Market?
Não, então numa apresentação, agora não.
Oh, just a second. Sorry, I think just a little bit till Bernardo's ready. Are you ready now, Bernardo?
Okay. Yeah, we are.
Take it away.
Sorry about that. Yeah. So my name is Bernardo. I'm one of the co-founders of Impact Market. So there's also Marco and Afonso. Afonso is our designer, and Marco was the one that had the initial idea. I can just explain a little bit further on that later. But yeah, I've been the main developer. Yeah, we're now growing. We grew quite fast, and we are now like trying to stabilize the platform as we're getting more and more people.
How does it work? What is the basic idea behind Impact Market? Who is it for, and how do people use it?
Yeah, so it started quite differently than what it is now. So initially, Marco, so he founded another company before, an impact social impact one, but it was like this centralized one, which was pretty hard to go to different countries and distribute funds. And so when he found out about blockchain, he thought that it was a really interesting solution. And so the initial idea of Impact Market was an UBI, just a UBI platform, which currently it's still just a UBI platform. But it was a bit different. So it was like with geofencing and things, which doesn't happen right now. But yeah, so it started as just a UBI platform, but we now describe ourselves as an anti-poverty system, and we are bringing more ideas which we have explored in our first community in Brazil, like micro work. We call it micro work. That experiment in Brazil was about plastic collection, but there's a few other ideas that are getting people way into like planting trees and stuff. And we're really excited about that, but it's quite a big feature by itself. So it's not really going to happen very, very soon, but whatever, it's still something that I think it's totally awesome.
Yeah. Okay, great. So, when I first looked at Impact Market, I downloaded the app, and what I saw was that people, I think this was in Brazil, different neighborhoods, different community groups, you could go on and effectively set up a UBI program where anyone in the world could sort of sponsor them or crowdfund them. And people would get sort of this sort of UBI thing. And now what I'm hearing is that you're moving beyond that plus more things to sort of this sort of micro work type thing where you're creating work or jobs for people to go do as well. Is that right?
Yeah, it's right.
Yep, great. Okay, so what I'm curious now is to jump over into a little bit about, you built this thing, and so how did you decide, one, to build on the CELO blockchain? Did you look at other blockchains, and what made you choose CELO, and what's been the experience so far building there?
Yeah, cool. Again, going back, so I've met CELO a while back, but actually, and Marco also met CELO also a while back before we actually knew each other.
Yeah.
And when we started talking, he talked about this idea, which I found amazing. I was a bit confused with the UBI thing, but there's a couple ideas that he totally convinced me that. And then I mentioned CELO, and so I knew about CELO, but didn't know that much. So I started exploring, and I found really interesting that they are really mobile focused. And when I started exploring the DApp and how it all works, yeah, it was really clear that it was the best choice because, well, it's a proof of stake. Transactions go really fast, and it's a mobile first. So if we think like in other countries, and especially in these underdeveloped communities, it's really hard if we focus on desktop rather than mobile, because like everyone or nearly everyone has a smartphone, but they don't necessarily have computers. And actually, there's another very interesting thing that is, I'm speaking of smartphones, but there's those featured phones like this one.
Yeah,
right. There's people working on building kind of a Valora for these phones, which was actually something that we've been asked a couple times in some pilots in Africa. And we now know that there will be a solution. There's people working on that, and we'll probably be integrating with that very soon, which is, wow, amazing.
Wow.
Way beyond than what I was expecting.
Wow, it looks like my video dropped out. That's strange. Can you still hear me?
I can.
Oh, weird. Well, let's keep going for like this for a minute. I'll see if I can get my video back. So you mentioned Valora. Can you describe what Valora is for developers who might not be familiar with that yet, and how you're using it with Impact Market?
Yeah, so Valora is a wallet. So if you know about other wallets, in probably the Ethereum ones are the most known ones. So like MetaMask, what's the name of Argent? Yeah, there's a couple of them. So it's just like it's a wallet, but the very special thing is that you can link your phone number to your wallet, and then you can transact with your contacts using your phone number instead of using the address, which for the common user, for the normal people, it's way easier to use phone numbers rather than addresses. I mean, I can speak for myself. It's quite okay to use addresses, but that's because I've been a developer for a while in this space. But it's much easier, and comparing it to traditional finance, it's much easier to transact with phone numbers rather than my bank account number. So it's the same. Can you hear me? Oh, I see. Calico said, I hear you, but I can't hear Andrew. Well, nice. I guess you can ask questions in the meantime. So if you guys haven't used Valora yet, please go ahead and use it. It's really amazing. I think there's a glitch. Okay. And being very honest, it simplifies and makes everything like way easier. And now that it's possible to connect, to link photos to the personal account, so anyone can I can have my phone linked to my account and my picture, and when I transact with anyone, it just my picture shows there. Also, I think I'm yet not sure, but I think that if the other person has my phone number and the other person's phone number is verified, it shows my name according to the contact list rather than the phone number. But I'm really not sure about that. Can we use Impact Market with Valora? Yes. In fact, we just support Valora through DAppKit. I know that CELO is working on a Wallet Connect integration, but they are still working on that. Okay, reading the question. Sorry. Platform. What were your biggest challenges in building a crypto platform for communities in developing country or developing world? There's a couple of challenges. Fortunately, there was so this mobile first simplified lots of things, but then since it's focused on mobile and smartphones, there's this problem of the featured phones. But still, I think it's a secondary problem. So the first one was having the smartphones, and that we've been able to work around. The other problem is the internet access, which in some places is quite challenging. And yeah. Also, one of the things in, let's consider, in the developing world is that Valora is actually not really available in every country in the world, and that's been a bit of a challenge. So, for example, countries like I think Mozambique and Morocco, and Venezuela as well. So it's been a little bit of a challenge, but it's working. Could you describe your approach on your tech stack so developers in audience can understand what it takes to build a product like Impact Market? Yeah, and I think that's a really interesting question. I see a few people fighting around just like wanting to have everything totally decentralized. I think that having the smart contracts itself being decentralized is already an enormous step and fantastic step towards decentralization. So answering that question, basically we have the smart contracts on CELO network. We have an API which is on Heroku, is centralized. We also have a Postgres database, which actually is doing the same as, well, more or less, as the graph, which is indexing events, so we can query everything quickly. We did that because we've started Impact Market more than a year ago, and there was no such thing at the time. So we built a simple version of an indexer. We also save some metadata about communities, like pictures, which we save on AWS. Pictures and names, descriptions, and so on and so forth. We have this API and the database, and then the indexer, which is constantly listening to events and indexing them. I think that's mostly the structure. We also recently we started using a CMS, which there's a couple headless CMS, because we also have, well, for the website we use it Flick for quite a while, but we then moved on to we are still on the process of developing, but we're building a more robust website with information about the project and communities and what's coming next. And so we changed it from React to Next, and there's now multiple pages and translations and stuff. And so we had to move out from Flick. So initially, and still, the current website is still hosted on IPFS, and there's an hash for the website. But we had to move because Flick is only supporting static websites, and we had to, with this new one, we needed the server-side rendering. So yeah, we had to change. But I think this is a good question, and my take on that is if you're starting to build something, just like go ahead and build and decentralize as you go, because like on the beginning, I thought that it would be interesting to go fully decentralized, but that's really a challenge. And so we went with this API and database and thing, and it's been working really cool. And we had a research section, let's say, and as we move on, we are trying to decentralize more and more things.
Okay, so I think I'm back. Speaking of technical challenges, I had to switch computers. My old one stopped working, but I heard you mentioned that you wrote an indexer, but you saw that the graph has come to CELO. Are you planning to move over to the graph, or how are you planning to use the graph?
Yeah, I wanted to move to the graph, to be honest. And with so many things still to be built, I think it'll be worth, for real. But not moving in the anytime soon.
Yep.
But yeah, I think will move, most likely.
Okay. So speaking of the graph, one of the other tools that you've used is one of the products from Figment, which is called DataHub. And you've been sort of a longtime tester and user of DataHub. How did you find out about DataHub, and how did you decide to use that in your stack?
Well, I found out about DataHub because it was presented during CELO Camp, the first batch, and we were there. And so, yeah, it was a no-brainer because I think it's the same reason why I chose Heroku for the API, which is I just plug and it goes. It works. I don't have to maintain a node. I don't have to update versions of that node. I don't have to care about if it fails, if it crashes for some reason. So it's one less thing, and quite a big thing to maintain, that I don't have to deal with. It's kind of the same with Heroku. If the app crashes, it restarts automatically.
Right.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. Great. We talked a bit about CELO. We talked about some of the choices you made in your tech stack, which I thought was really interesting to hear about. Starting out maybe centralized and then decentralizing over time, and some of the choices you've made. Have you looked at other protocols and bringing what you're doing to other protocols like Ethereum or other new layer 1 blockchains, or do you plan to stay just on CELO?
We're not planning to move from CELO because it's very mission aligned. So yeah, we're not definitely planning to move away, but it will be very interesting to have bridges to other chains. It's something that we've thought.
How would you use the bridges, just to get more people who have tokens that they could use in your platform, or how could you use a bridge?
I think there's already lots of people in other chains and projects in other chains, and it'll be very interesting to just put everything together. I think so. For example, we now have Mula in CELO, but we've discussed that for quite a while. That will be very interesting to have something like AV or Compound working somehow connected with our contracts. But even I think there's a carbon credit platform that, they are also now on CELO. But there's many more, and I think it's interesting to be able to connect all these things.
Do you know the name of the carbon credit platform that's now on CELO? I saw one called Regen, but I think that was its own blockchain based on Cosmos. I've not seen the CELO one.
Yeah, there's that one, but there's the one that comes from CELO is Moss something. Let me see if I. Yeah, Moss Earth. I can share the link. I guess. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks. Moss.earth. I hadn't seen it before. Thanks for sharing that. So I understand that CELO is aligned with what you're trying to do. are there any missing features or things you would hope to improve in the protocol that you think would make your life as a developer even better?
Good question.
I know that one of the things that people really like is the integrated cell phone part. As a validator, Figment is a validator. We run the attestation service so people can use phone numbers and texting. I thought that was a really cool feature, and I heard other people want that on other blockchains. I was just wondering if there's something that you thought, hey, I wish we could add this to the protocol to make something easier for you.
Nothing that I can think of. Yeah, the phone number is an amazing thing. Definitely.
Yep. I have a question for you about sort of the user interface or the user experience. It's a common complaint that in crypto the UI is complicated and things are too hard to use. How have you addressed that with Impact Market? And do you have any tips for developers in the audience about things they could do to simplify the UI, simplify the UX, or things that you found success with?
It's still confusing for me, to be honest, because I hear people all the time saying like UI UX is complicated or is not good. I mean, I don't think it's bad at all. If you compare it with like banks or government website, at least here in Portugal, I think it works pretty well overall.
Yeah.
But yeah, in regarding what to do or what not, I think that, yeah, we see many projects in the crypto space showing addresses all the time, like for real. For the final user, the address doesn't really matter. Right. They probably don't know what that means, and they will most likely don't care about that. The same way that I don't care about my bank account number.
Yeah.
So that's why I think that this future of linking the phone number to an account address and being able to transfer to the phone number instead of the address, I think it's just amazing, because it simplifies a lot of things, and people have it like they are used to it.
Yep, that makes sense. Yeah, that's a good tip. Yeah, and I hadn't made that same connection before of, I don't know what my bank account number is. Like, why should they have to remember their address on a blockchain? It doesn't really make sense. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So earlier you mentioned how you started out with UBI and then you were moving towards a sort of micro work. What else is in the future? What's next for Impact Market? Are there any other features that you're hoping to add, or the things that you want to work on?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things actually. One of them that is going to be released soon, and I'm really excited about it. It's a feature called Stories, which is you've heard about stories everywhere. It's because there's stories everywhere. But I'm really excited about that, because we get some pictures and videos and messages from beneficiaries and even managers. And I think they're so good that they need to be shared. That's for real. And that was quite the main reason we decided to have these stories, that beneficiaries will be able to share with the world what they feel, what they do on their day-to-day. We also hope that it helps bring in some funding. But yeah, I'm really excited to have that released, because I want to see more of that, because we're now there's a couple, I would say, proxies between the beneficiaries and me, because I don't know them at all. And so there's like, probably they send in their WhatsApp groups, they send like 20 or 50 pictures, but I get like one. I'm really curious to see what they will be sharing and the messages and stuff. And I'll be very curious to see the interactions with everyone else. Also, I think it will add way more dynamics to the app, which right now, just like you go to the app and there's a list of communities, and that's quite it. It looks a little bit uneven. So I hope that it brings more activity, more things moving. one other thing that we are really excited about, but it will take a little bit more, is instead of just donating, we want to add a feature to redirect the interest. So instead of me donating like $50 or something else, I'll deposit like 500 and redirect the interest to the community.
Mm-hmm. Oh, nice. That's a cool idea. I hadn't heard of that before, but that sounds really great.
Yeah.
So you would essentially be depositing with Impact Market, and then any interest that you earn would go towards the community. Is that the way to think about it?
Yeah, there's a couple ways of doing that, but yeah, that's one of the options. So there will be like currently there's only the deposit button. There will be like the deposit and I don't know. Oh, sorry. There's the donate button, and there will be probably deposit and redirect. I still don't know how it's going to work.
Right.
But yeah, it'll be something like that.
Yeah, I like that idea a lot. Okay. I have two questions left for you. One is maybe any advice for other developers out there. If someone's just coming to Web3, what advice would you have? Let's say that they know how to do full stack web development, so they're a Web2 developer. They're coming to Web3. What advice would you have for them to get started, or what would you suggest they read or do to sort of get up to speed on Web3?
That depends on the role that they want to play. So if you want to stay as a front-end developer or back-end or full stack without ever learning about smart contracts or stuff, just go learn about the libraries to interact with the smart contracts like Web3 or Ethers.js and learn how to deal with that. If you want to learn about the smart contracts, I think there's, and mostly around Solidity, which is what CELO uses. There's a lot of material out there. There's platforms to test security issues. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you are also putting the pathway together, which is also amazing. And I think it's one amazing thing because it puts a lot of chains in one thing, so everyone can go to the Figment Learn and try a few things from each platform and compare the platforms and eventually choose one or another.
Yep. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Yeah, that's great advice. I like how you said, if you're just going to be doing full stack or even front-end development, get familiar with these libraries, the Web3.js library, Ethers.js library, things like that, because those are going to be just your APIs in. But if you're going to go for smart contracts and Solidity, that's sort of a different thing. So that makes a lot of sense. Okay, the last question I always like to ask everyone is, I call it the magic wand question. If you had a magic wand, you could wave your magic wand and make anything happen for either CELO or blockchain in general, or for Impact Market. You can take it however you want, but you have a magic wand. What are you wishing for?
Yeah, I wish there will be more people building useful stuff, and above anything else, like less fighting. It doesn't really matter if there will be if there will be 100 transactions or 500 transactions or wherever, because in the long run, as someone said, it's open source, we can just copy and paste. But yeah, beyond that, I see too much fighting on the internet regarding this chain is better than that one, this is a ghost chain, this is that is whatever. This price doesn't make sense, that price doesn't make sense. Dude, just if that doesn't make sense, like, create a tutorial, show to everyone, build something that creates value on that chain if you believe that that's a good chain. But yeah, stop wasting time fighting, because you'll gain nothing from that, neither anyone. For real.
Yeah. There's an old quote that I really liked. I used to have it on my wall, and it said, "The best way to complain is to make stuff." I thought that was kind of funny. instead of just bickering is actually go make something. The best way to complain is to make stuff.
Interesting one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Oh, it looks like someone asked a question here in the Ask Question section. It says, is there a way to automatically send the sales of an NFT to Impact Market? Is there any way we can integrate, or is there any code for that? So I sell an NFT and I want to sort of donate the proceeds into Impact Market. Have you heard of this idea before?
Yeah, I didn't mention that when you asked about next features. We've also thought about NFTs because thinking about favelas in Brazil, there's a lots of art, and we're thinking about ways of exploring NFTs and funding communities with the NFTs. I really don't have an answer for that, but it'll probably will have something around that. Also, right now we just support receiving CELO dollars on the communities. So we have to refactor the contracts because now there's CELO euro getting in. And I don't know if anyone ever decided to send CELO, which will be an issue by now. But yeah, we have to get support to all that. So if in any case anyone sends a different token, we have ways to work around that. So answering that, no, we don't really, unless you just like get the CELO or CELO dollar from the NFT, you convert and you send to a community.
That makes sense. Okay, great. So right now, no direct integration with NFTs, but you've been thinking about for the people who are using your app, the beneficiaries, how you could allow them to sort of bring up their NFTs. That's a really cool idea. And also, yeah, you make a good point that CELO is adding more stable coins. CELO Euro is coming next, I think. So yeah, that's great. Okay, well, you've answered all the questions that I have. I'm really excited to hear about all the things you're building, and I think you did a really good job for the developers out there who want to, get started or learn about some of the things that you've done. I think it was very helpful. So thanks for all your time, Bernardo. Is there anything before we go that you'd like to share with anyone out there, either developers or people in the CELO community?
Cool. Thank you as well for having me. So it was really cool.
Okay.
I don't think I have anything special, but if there's anyone with an idea, like start trying this out, start trying your idea. It costs a few cents to deploy a contract. If there's a bug, someone else will help you for sure, I guess. You can just share on Discord and bugle everyone. Eventually someone will help. And yeah, I see a shortage on developers. But whatever, besides that, if there's someone in the audience that wants to build something, just like go build it. Don't care. Don't listen to the price. Just go build it. It's
very good. So look for Impact Market at impactmarket.com. You have an app for Android and iOS. I think iOS is on a test flight. But yeah, so if you have a phone, if you have a computer, you can find Impact Market. So thanks for your time, Bernardo, and we will talk to you again soon.
Thank you.